people of Ramsgate have consistently, clearly demonstrated that they don't want this development, but I think they're being told that they're going to get it anyway, and that doesn't seem right to me. And to look at another situation where I think the double standards in the operation here is, again, it's an analogy with Marsdon, but we have a situation there where a company comes along offering to save Marsdon Airport, or attempt to, and offering to work with the council to try and deliver that, and offering to indemnify the council against all costs that are associated with that. But the Cabinet insists on market testing, effectively having a beauty parade, effectively going out and asking if there's anyone else interested in this. But here, we have a company that says, actually, we wouldn't mind taking this development on if you don't mind. And we say, yeah, that's all right, and virtually give them the thumbs up. And that doesn't seem consistent to me, and I'd like an explanation as to why we're not looking at that. Because I do believe that we are in a situation where, yeah, Councillor Everitt's right, you know, this is a point where, you know, we've got to make some decisions about this. It shouldn't be dragging on, but I wonder whether we have explored all the opportunities. Yeah. Okay, we're told that, you know, the site has a value. We're told that SFP would be able to maybe sue the council for costs and all those good things. But, you know, if we went out to the market, do we know if there might be someone else out there who would be prepared to take on putting something on that site and actually covering those costs? I don't know whether we've looked at that. I don't know how practical it is, but until we look at these things, we're never going to know, are we? What we're getting at the moment is a situation where, again, it seems in there we're told that, you know, we should be grateful because what we're going to get is the overage we were expecting, but we'll get it up front. Well, that's fine, but the overage we were going to get was based on prices probably back in sort of 2004. Now, I'm just wondering, the way things are going at the moment, housing market's picked up, seaside living has become very fashionable, Ramsgate has become a very fashionable destination. I wonder what those flats will sell for if that development is delivered now, and I wonder what the council will get extra out of that, because if we don't get anything, I think that we will be letting the people of Thanet down big time, and that needs to be addressed. I think other people want to say things, so I'm not going to labour any more points, but I would just query that that report says that we've disposed of the freehold. As far as I'm aware, we've never done that. We've very deliberately not done that. There might be some long leases involved, but, you know, I think words are important here. We want to make sure that we use them properly and accurately. Thank you.
Councillor Everitt would like to come back in and then we'll come to the other speakers.
Well, of course, Councillor Bayford has the advantage of it because he was a member of the council which agreed to dispose of the freehold, whereas I wasn't. I'm afraid we can argue about what's in the 2009 development agreement, what the implications are of it. I'm not a lawyer and you're not a lawyer as far as I'm aware. We will bottom out these issues. I think all these issues need to be fully explored. Clearly, there is not a situation where we can have a hands-up vote as to whether people would like the development or not development. And the reason for that is there is an agreement with SFP, whether we like it or not. There is an agreement which was entered into in 2006 and which was varied in 2009, and Councillor Bayford may well not have voted for it, but the council as a whole did vote for it, and that agreement exists, and that's where we start from. Now, his idea of going out to market, I'm not quite sure where he gets that from. We have an agreement. We have agreed with this developer to build this construction. They haven't done it. We are trying to use the provisions in that agreement, which is defective and not useful to this council, I have to say, to pursue the matter, either to retrieve the site or to get the thing built. But we do not have a free and open hand. It would be lovely if we did. It would be lovely if we could have a nice fact-finding survey to discover what people in Ramsgate as a whole want, and then we had the money to build it. That's not the position we're in, and pretending we are does nobody any good.
Thank you very much, Councillor Everitt. I have to say, this was, for years, the issue, and there was a lot of consultation, and people were quite enthusiastic. I used to go to their partnership meetings in Ramsgate. Get on with it, get on with it. They loved the whole idea. Obviously, times change, people have different views, but I would like to thank Mrs Crowley and you and Councillor Green for the work you've done to reach the stage we're at within the history of this site. Bob, we're not blaming you, but there was certainly the deputy leader of the council at the time who did a lot of promotion of what was going to happen over there, that has us in the situation that we're in now. Absolutely. He is now the leader of UKIP. You may be glad to have been rid of him. Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Could you take Councillor Marsdon first, Madam Chairman, because if her voice gives out, I'm going to mop up the remains.
Charming.
I do sound as if I'm on death's door. I absolutely agree with everything Councillor Bayford has said, and I don't think it's necessary to be quite so defensive, because I think we're all entering this into a realistic appraisal of where we are, but trying to give constructive comments from this side, and that's how we're entering into this. And I sat on the task and finish group that looked into this, and we did it in the right frame of mind, and trying to get to a result which would be good for Ramsgate and good for Thanet. Section 4, for paragraph 5.4, however, I do take issue with. It implies that the council is absolutely required and only required to secure the best financial value for that site. That's not the only consideration that should be taken into that site. What the people of Ramsgate want is a valid consideration now, as it was then. So to say that getting the best price alone is the only consideration, I don't think is a fair observation. And on a wider point, the report in 2.5 mentions the contractual obligations which Cardi will take on when it buys, if it buys SFP Ventures. But it fails to mention that Cardi will also be purchasing substantial assets as well. It would seem to me, seeing SFP in action over the past few years, it would seem inconceivable to me that SFP would not want a fair value in the purchase price of those assets. And those assets will be valued on a current basis. So it would seem to me that by paying a price by Cardi's to SFP, SFP will be rewarded for land banking that site for over 10 years. The council should seem to me to be insisting that we get some benefit from that period of time and the increase in values, although the report, and I understand why, doesn't go into the valuation of that site. So we have to make some assumptions about the asset values. The other points I would make from the task and finish group, there should be absolutely no suggested transfer in that freehold. We should be seeking to improve the terms of that contract wherever possible, and that absolutely proper due diligence should be done this time. To just simply say that Cardi had funds in place was where we were before. Cardi's a whole different kettle of fish, and I don't suggest otherwise. But I think we want proper due diligence, and we certainly don't want to end up in a position where we find that Sean Keegan is a director all of a sudden of Cardi's, for example. So I think, I appreciate the difficulties you've got on the long road ahead, but there are significant issues that need to be bottomed out. They're not all in this report, and the valuation for this council should be taken into the fact that SFP have land banked this property for over 10 years now.
Thank you, Councillor Marsden. Councillor Everitt, can I just say very quickly that I was always opposed to the freehold being given, but we seem to have been in the position it absolutely was, and it came as some surprise to me when a previous administration walked us up that path. And I think I'll leave it now to Councillor Everitt, but we have been very surprised about the situation that a previous administration, under someone who was your deputy leader, walked us into.
Yeah, you're over it.
Okay. I'm not sure that we're going to get anywhere discussing what is and isn't in the agreement. It is a matter of fact, and we can explore it afterwards. I would say to Councillor Marsden, yes, obviously we want to improve the terms of the agreement, and obviously we want to get the best deal for Thanet, and obviously we want to address the concerns that she's expressed, and all the concerns that have been expressed to me by other people in Ramsgate. But there is one fact which we can't avoid, which is that Cardi's could buy SFP tomorrow and build it, and there's nothing we could do about that, just the same as SFP can build it. We cannot stop Cardi's buying SFP. There's nothing that the council can do about that. They're entitled to do it. Whether they choose to do it, of course, is another matter. The purpose of negotiating a new agreement is to negotiate better terms for the council, to secure a position whereby if Cardi's take on SFP and do not build out the development, we get the site back, regardless of what the 2009 agreement says. At the moment, we're not in a position to do that. I'm going to ask Mrs Crowley if she'll speak to you about best value.
Yes, thank you. I mean, just to mirror what Councillor Everitt has already said, there are a lot of points and questions that will be answered and put onto the website to answer some of these questions. But just to go back to the point about best consideration, this site is accounted for in a certain way where the starting point would be that we would have to try to obtain the best consideration for it. Now, there are consents that we could, having ownership of the site, which of course we would have to purchase back, we could look at other options, but there are caveats on that, and it's not straightforward. There is a limitation on that, where you would be required to go to the Secretary of State. So, we do have to follow these laws, and there is a process, and the starting point is to get the best consideration.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wells.
Ask Mrs Crowley one question before I speak. Could she define for us the difference between best consideration and best value?
In what way? And for what purpose?
Both terms have been used in the preamble to the discussion you gave. You stuck very carefully to best consideration. Are you telling me that use best consideration has meaning best value, or is there a difference between the two terms?
I mean, I would say no, there isn't a difference. Obviously my lawyer over there could correct me, but he's saying no, there is no difference.
Used to always say best value, and then somewhere it crept into the jargon that it was best consideration, and that is what it is. So some people say best value, but it is best consideration nowadays. It's all the same thing. Right, you have your couple of minutes, thank you.
But before I have my couple of minutes, I don't think that's actually true. Because there is if best value is best value, consideration implies there are other factors involved than value alone. And I'm not expecting an answer immediately. I'm not surprised Mrs Crowley hesitated. But I really do think we have to be very precise about the terms we use in this, because this is, Councillor Everitt said just now that we might be entering a lengthy, unpredictable and expensive legal battle. Ye gods, what's the last 17, 18 years been then? It's lengthy, unpredictable and expensive. And look, you sat there, Councillor Everitt, and said to us, this happened in the 2009 agreement or whatever, and you also said, it's a matter of fact, we can explore it afterwards. What a lovely idea. And we can explore the issues around the freehold. Please read 2.8 of your own report. The implication there is not that Councillor Latchford did something in 2009, but it was in 2006 that the freehold went. And I'm not sure that's exactly true. It's certainly not my memory of the situation. Whilst my memory is not perfect, and I can't claim like Anson Johnston to remember what happened in 1932 perfectly, but I think we need much more precision in this report. This report actually is a masterly presentation of saying bugger all. What it says is, identifiably, is that there is now a huge and immeasurable gap between what the residents of Ramsgate want and what this council is trying to achieve. And in democracy, that's a really serious position to get yourselves into. This covers the council's embarrassment, but it doesn't cover what the people of Ramsgate have expressed quite clearly they want. And the other thing this does is, in February we made a decision and pressure was put on SFP or whatever, and hey, what happened in the mediation? They actually gave something for the first time in many, many years. So what's our response? Let's take the pressure off and go in and talk to them nicely or whatever, rather than keep the pressure on. Surely, by now, we should be using a twin-track impact where we keep all the legal pressure on them, because that is the one thing that's produced actually some sense of concession from them in moving this thing forward.
Exactly.
And what we seem to be doing is trying to play the game as if we're playing with straight soldiers. Well, we ain't. Because if there's one thing we've learned from the last 20 years, is that we are not playing with straight soldiers. Okay, I beg your pardon. Alright, and it just seems to me that every time we come to this particular issue, everything leans into whose version of history is correct, rather than actually starting with something that is incredibly basic in terms of fact. There is virtually no fact in this report on which anybody can hang their hat and actually look at. It's all supposition, conditionality, perhaps, maybe, and we may do. And I think by now, although there's a delicious irony in Councillor Johnston and Councillor Nicholson as leader and deputy leader, having to mop up the mess they created when they picked SFP in 2002, and there's the other part of history. You can shake your head, but if you want to throw history around, we can all throw history around. Right? 2001, right?
2003,
and what? There we go. And what happened then? Actually, the selection was made rejecting a local firm and picking a firm we couldn't do due diligence on. What do we want to do now? We want to actually get ourselves back from under that particular rock by actually working with a local firm, whom I think are a very good firm, but are working with people whom I think anybody in this room could understand we have learnt not to trust. And the council is now in a position where it is so far adrift from what the people of Ramsgate want, I think it is actually in a very dangerous position.
Thank you very much, and obviously 1932 was a little before my time, but I'm sure I can do research for you. However, can I just say that the presentation was given at full council, and a decision was made. There were working parties, Ramsgate Renaissance was set up, and although I may not have personally totally have approved of the decision at the time, it was a unanimous support for that company at the end of the day. And everyone was very excited. The partnerships and others, apart from Dave, who was not around the very original, because I was around in 1998. And when we had Mr. Godden and we had fires and we had all the rest of it, some of us, if we were born pre-1932, will not be alive if this doesn't move on soon. Now, Mrs. Homer would like to comment. Thank you.
New generation is giving up nothing.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to clarify the point around best value and best consideration. And I'm quite clear that Mrs. Crowley, in a professional capacity, only ever refers to this matter in terms of best consideration. And I think we're in danger of digressing from the main point of consideration, which is the issue of best consideration. And if in the context the term best value has been used, that's not for the purposes of suggesting that there is any other reason for interchange of terminology to mean anything different. So I just wanted to clarify that. I think, certainly from an officer point of view, we're quite clear of the professional comments that Mrs. Crowley is making. I understand that Councillor Everitt wanted to say something, Chairman.
I think Councillor Everitt and then Councillor Green. Thank you. Thank you, please.
Well, I'm grateful to Councillor Wells for sharing his expertise of what the people of Ramsgate want. I tell you what the people of Ramsgate want. They want this council to sort this situation out.
We want something.
And the reason we brought this report was to bring into the public domain the discussions that have taken place. And I think if we haven't brought it to Cabinet and had a discussion about it, and not put it on pink, and not tried to hide anything away, I think you'd have criticised us for that, and I think you'd have been right. We have to work from the position we're in, and whether we like it or not, the context is the 2006-2009 development agreement. That is the starting point. We can't start from where we were in 1998 when the thing burned down. We can't start from where we were before the planning consent was granted and before any agreement was entered into and before any deal was done with SFP. We have to work from where we are. I am committed, and people in Ramsgate know this, to talking to people in Ramsgate about all the issues around this. And the freehold is an issue that we can discuss and we can explore and we can bottom it out. We will do all this work. We will establish the answers to all the questions that are raised by residents. We will debate them in the public domain, and we will give residents the opportunity to interrogate us on these questions. Because, to be honest, they're not the issue. If one of these turns out to be of such a problem that there can't be a scheme built, then clearly Harleys won't enter into an agreement and the council won't. We will debate all those issues, and we will allow people to understand what the council is saying in detail, don't worry. In the end, what matters is what comes back, not what's in front of us tonight. And I'm confident that we're going to go away and do our best for the people of Ramsgate and do our best for this council, and we'll try finally to resolve this matter.
Thank you very much. Just before I bring you in, Councillor Green, we have a Ramsgate Matters meetings pretty regularly, where we have traders and others who come along and give their views, and they just want us to resolve this once and for all. Obviously, you've just mentioned we are not having these meetings in private or papers on pink. I have not had one paper on pink since I became the leader. We will have this open and frank discussions. We have somebody filming. We are doing our best here. It is a mess, and we're doing our best to get it right. But I know when I go to those Ramsgate Matters meetings, the people from Ramsgate that sit around that table, and they are business people in particular, want us to sort it out and get it right. And the same with the pavilion and everything else that was neglected for many years. So, you know, no blame anywhere. Let's just get on and do it. Thank you. Well, I know, Bob, you won't be blamed, Bob, because you weren't the leader or deputy leader when Councillor Sandy Ezekiel and your friend Councillor Latchford made a mess of it. Right, Councillor Green, thank you.
Well, I really want to endorse what Councillor Everitt has just said, probably better than I can. I mean, I approach this development from perhaps a unique perspective, because I voted against the planning permission when it came to council. It did come to full council. I voted against the 2006 development agreement and against the 2009 adoption of that. And I would dearly, dearly love to be able to say that we could give this site to the people of Ramsgate to make suggestions as to what should be on there. But we can't. We can't because, as Councillor Everitt has said, we are contracted, this council, to this particular developer. We have obligations. We have an agreement that says we've got to enter into mediation about their concerns and our concerns. All this paper to me does is to give officers the permission to negotiate with a local builder as to whether there's some way out of this situation that, I've got to say it, that the previous administration lumbered us with. Now, that may work, that may not work. We have a promise from Councillor Everitt that he will publish every detail of what that negotiation concludes, including all the areas that the people of Ramsgate have said concern them. I don't think we can offer to do more than that. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I'm sure Councillor Everitt will tell us at the end of the day what we've achieved and what we haven't achieved.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, colleagues, for your input. Could I have a vote on this, please? Thank you. Unanimous? Yes? Sorry. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.